Hi guys, welcome to my first devlog, also my first YouTube video, so sorry if it's weird, but yeah, so basically me and my boyfriend have been working on a 2D game that we're making in Godot. We chose Godot because there were a lot of YouTube tutorials on how to start and how to program it, and also because it was free. Um, and it seemed a lot less complicated than the other engines, and also because we wanted it to be a 2D game, Godot seemed to have a really good 2D engine. Backstory on me: I don't have any programming experience or any game design experience. Neither does my boyfriend. So we're really starting out from nothing here in terms of like making a game. But the way that we're splitting up the work is my boyfriend is mainly doing the art. So he's using a sprite. We were willing to pay $20 for that in order to make animation easier on us. And I'm helping a little with that, but I'm mainly doing the programming. So I'm mainly just in Godot always. But yeah, so this is basically the only level that we have right now. And I can go through kind of how I've been programming things. It's kind of spaghetti code. It's definitely not what I'm supposed to be doing in Godot. But yeah, so we were really inspired by two games in making this. Sorry if you hear our cat in the background. He's going a little psycho. But the games are the Count Lucanor for the art style and the way that it was more of a narrative puzzle driven 2D game. We want this game to be kind of a horror puzzle game. And then the other game is BioShock in terms of the atmosphere and like the horror and the immersion. Like that's I would say that we want the atmosphere of BioShock with the mechanics of the Count Lucanor, specifically the medical pavilion of BioShock, because this is going to be a hospital set game with mainly like a medical scientific horror theme, which we think is going to be really cool. Our working title right now is Hospital, but obviously that's not going to be the final title. But let me open up the game. So right now I just kind of have like a filler title screen that the options doesn't even go anywhere. You can quit the game if you want though, or you can start the game. So let's start. So you are this. This is our protagonist. I'm also going to add eventually a character creation screen so you can customize your character a little, but not a lot. So this kind of represents like we've been working on the idea and talking about the idea and kind of like sketching like art for the past month, but this really only represents basically like 4 days of programming. Kind of still it's still getting there. But so we have our walking around and the walking animation. We also have a few animations in here. We also, the main thing that I've been implementing is kind of like the beginning of an interaction system. So if you go next to an item that you can interact with, E will pop up, which will be our interaction button. And you can click that and then you can interact with it. And so you can see the, like, in this case, it's a magazine, so you can see the blown up cover of it. And there isn't a lot you can do in the world right now, but let's leave the starting room. And then we're in the main hospital, so we can kind of walk around. We want it to really be like, we want you to really feel like you're like stranded in this giant hospital. So we didn't want it to be too like, I guess linear would be the right word. But we kind of want you to be able to explore around and like make your own way basically. The thing I've been doing like yesterday was making it so that now you can enter each of these doors, go into the room, and this room has something to interact with. This room has a television, so let's try turning on the television, and it plays static, and we can turn it off, and there's nothing else we can really do here. But if you leave, you now like leave outside the right area, right outside the door, and you can do that with each of these rooms. These are the only two where they're different from the others. We haven't made that many sprites yet, but if we go in here, it just doesn't have a TV. but when we leave, we're right there. So, and that was, I didn't know how to do, they're calling Godot singletons, but when you like auto load a program universally throughout the program. I also should say that I really like the way that Godot's node system work. It's pretty intuitive and easy to use. Like the way that like the hierarchy of it works, and things stacking up with each other. But basically there's a singleton with the player location, and each one of these, when it changes the scene, it will identify what the proper position for the door is and load the player to the right place in that scene. So right now there isn't really a lot to see in the map. Like, you can kind of just do this. Like, this this really isn't a lot, but I'm proud of the way that the doors are already there, and we kind of have a little bit of an interaction system that then it's pretty easy to like add sprites and stuff. But so if we quit here, like showing a little bit of the code and how it works. Don't mind the cursed file names and everything. I've kind of been raging at Godot as I figure it out. But if we go here, there were a lot of really helpful tutorials on YouTube. We're using a blend space 2D for the walking. So that automatically will like see like where like the force. You can probably tell that I'm using some code from the Heart Beast Action RPG tutorial, which was really helpful for figuring out like walking around on a top-down game. And then a bunch of tile maps, which should probably only be one tile map, but I need to figure out how to do the Y sort, so it's multiple tile maps. And here is the door. Here are all the doors. The doors are all separate, but here's the door script, which all of these doors are attached to, which have so they have exported variables. I figured out how to export variables so you can just adjust it in the UI, which is really helpful for doing each door, because I was spiraling about having to make a script for each door individually, but then I realized you could do that. And yeah, you have it. If it's interactable, it should change the scene and go to this player position, and then we have some like signals going to the area 2Ds for the door that will say, okay, should it pop up with the label that is the E that you can interact with, or should it not? And then we can go to the start room and see that code, where this was the first thing I did. So when I was figuring everything out, this was kind of where I figured it out. And here is the code for the interaction with the magazine, which the magazine is actually, I did a canvas layer and then a texture, and then I set it as not visible, and then so if you press a button, it will set itself as visible and then go back to false. Yeah, I don't know why this is here, but it stops working if I delete that, so I've kept it. And yeah, so that's the start room. We're gonna be working on other rooms. We need to make a bunch of sprites for them. Here's how the menu works. This was also mainly done off of a tutorial. It's just a bunch of it's just a bunch of containers, basically, with a bunch of text, and then like a rudimentary script to handle the like clicks of like the UI. So we're going back in the game. We're planning on there being basically a patient in each of these rooms, and then some other specific rooms that are like administrative rooms, and you're going to be able to interact with each of the players. This is going to be the nurse's kiosk, which will have patrolling nurses. Right now you can go in, but there's no one in there. And we're also planning for there to be, we don't want this to just be a puzzle game. We want there to be some action elements. So there are going to be enemies. There is going to be fights. So it's more of a survival horror puzzle, little bit of action 2D game, which will work out more what works and what doesn't as we go on, obviously. But we definitely do want there to be like a survival element, a health bar element, enemy elements. But yeah, so basically The format of it is kind of, the hospital will have levels. This is going to be the first level. You're going to have to figure out how to get to the next level and avoid enemies and not die on each level. And the ultimate goal is to escape the hospital. Right now this is just the same room. But so, and it will get creepier and creepier as you progress through the hospital, and harder. And we're gonna have like different and we're gonna have an administrator's office. We're gonna have a break room. The floors and patients will change with minor exceptions. Like each level, so it'll be a new level, but the layout will remain basically the same, so you can still kind of get your bearings. But we're planning on there being like a rec yard here, and also like a patient lounge / family visitation area that we think will be cool. here's one of our posters. There isn't a lot, as I said. This only represents basically like 3 days of programming. A lot more like thinking about it. Like, we definitely have the idea and like the ideas for the levels out, which was really helpful to start out with. And I feel like I've done like a lot of programming even for 3 days, and I feel like that's a lot due to having a plan and then like implementing the plan after a while. Like, we really have been like thinking and talking and planning it for a month now, so that's a pretty long time relative to the amount that I've been programming it. But here's another one of our ads. These aren't going to be the final. We're not planning on these to even be the posters in the first level, so they'll go around, but these are just kind of to figure out how things are placed. But yeah, that's pretty much what we have so far. So we're definitely at the very beginning, but we'll be posting devlogs here and updates to the game as we make good enough progress. And obviously it's going to change a lot. This is the very beginning. It's not at all even the final of like anything that's in here. But yeah, we're really excited to keep working on it, and we can't wait to show like how we progress and how it changes and gets better. And yeah, we're just really excited about this project and really want people to see it. So we're excited to show it off, and we hope you like it. Thanks for watching, and feel free to subscribe.